And we're live. We're live. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to impromptu episode. It's not really, and it's not an episode. Like, I'm so used to being like, welcome back to another episode of Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. I'm your host, Eric Obremt. But we're not really doing that. We need to come up with a better name for these.
How to use VAs in your business? Yeah. I still like my new and innovative ways to use the F word.
I do too. I like that. That was really good. Yeah. That was really good. But yeah, everybody that's tuning in, we do these a couple times a month, and the idea is that we want to highlight, obviously SMA and Adam and everything that they do, but we want to be educational and we want to help people understand how they can do better, how they can take stuff off their plate, the why behind it. I think sometimes we do forget about the why behind why this is such an important topic of learning how to, because I think the biggest fear when you talk about bringing in new staff is making sure that we know where to put them, right? Knowing where to, what tasks that they need to have. So we want to continue to be educational. We want to help people so that they can figure out how to do that, and then hire Adam and SMA to do those things.
Just really, ideally, yes. Like if you want the best of the best, come to us. But
right.
Mostly it's about empowering the organization.
But if you're a cheap ass and you don't really care about fucking quality, then go fuck off and go work with somebody else.
Sure. There's lots of that.
Yeah. I just realized like I'm so bad about keeping my couch clean behind me. So I've just got like a new case of golf balls that came this morning with my number on them. And what's over here? That's a bag from when I bought my new truck. So I had to take all the stuff out of my old truck and throw it in a garbage bag so I could put it back in my new truck, but I haven't put it back in my new truck yet.
I think ideally, if we could do this for the next one, if you could actually sit on the couch, and then if I could ask you if you've ever done anything like this before, I think is how we should start.
All the way back. Yeah. I'll scream. I'll scream at the fucking mic. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'm also going to get one of those. I'm going to get one of those cameras that come down from the middle. Have you seen those where you look straight on at the camera? So like you're actually looking at the people.
I gotta be honest. Everyone else has got like all kinds of equipment and shit. I've got a laptop that barely works. I don't have two screens. I don't have a keyboard. I don't have a mouse.
You don't have a keyboard?
No, dude. I'm like the most rudimentary human being in the world. Yeah.
That's why it works. Who's there? Oh, Ian's there. Hey, Ian. Okay, well, let's get started. You said you had a couple of topics that you wanted to kind of talk about today. Let's dig in.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to talk today about everyone's favorite psychology. And really the psychology of work, right? And the idea of like things like flow state and green zones and zones of genius. And, the reality is like when we think about the work that we do, one of the things that people, I think, approach their worlds incorrectly is that like, when we think about getting into flow state or getting into our zones of genius, or what I refer to as our green zones, right? We try to eliminate all the things that we hate. And that's like really fucking impossible. That's never going to happen. Right. And so think like, well, if I can't get rid of all of the shit I hate, it's not worth even making an effort or making any kind of attempt to do any of it. Right. So I can't do it all. So fuck it. It's not possible. And I'm just going to, stay in this perpetual state of shit where like half of my workflows either don't get done successfully, or like I kick the can down the road. And things that I could be doing or that I could be hyper focusing on, I'm not as effective at them because I've just pissed away 3.5 hours doing this stuff that's like awful. And really like unlocking that zone of expertise and that zone of genius. It's when, we've all been there, right? When like work.
Why do you think people do that?
Well, because we live in a world of absolutisms.
Okay.
Everything is like absolute. And one of the things, you had that post recently that I loved, right? That's like, how about like slow down and try to understand every side of an issue before you make these like determinative absolutist statements about like all good or all bad. Like nothing, like really like 2% of the world is that way. Like there's 1% on one end and 1% in the other. And 98% of life is somewhere in between. Right. And you can't like diminutively describe something as all or nothing ever. And we approach our lives that way because the messaging that we receive from media is like that. The messaging we receive from advertising is like that. We're just like assaulted of like all or nothing all the fucking time. And it imprints in our brain, and it imprints in the way that we begin to perceive and adjust to the world around us. And so, yeah, I think people quit trying to get themselves into flow state, or try to quit, like step away from like reorganizing the way that they work into these buckets or areas of expertise or genius of, you know, behavioral factors that come naturally to them.
Do you feel like if they're not doing something, because I've met some people that if they're not only consistently staying busy, even if it's not productive, and if they are, so like, because I've gotten to a place where I work all the time, right? But I'm strategic about it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've given myself permission to not feel guilty when I go do something else, right? Because I know that it's being handled. And I've met some people that I feel like almost feel guilty if they're not constantly doing something, even if it's not, shouldn't be done by them.
Yep. Yeah. Big
Does
time.
that make sense?
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah. I mean, there's like, so I can get, how nerdy do you want me to get here? I can get real scientific. And I'm, you know what, even whether or not you fucking want me to get real scientific, I'm going to nerd out.
Do I have a choice? Yeah.
No, you don't have a choice. Okay. Fuck you. This is how it's going. Yeah. Right. So like here, the reality is that not all hours and not all tasks are equal in value, right? Like we can accept that not everything is the same. We don't have an equitable partnership in that regard. And so like we want to manage our work into things that fit most naturally into the way that we approach our world, that we assess our world, that we reason our world. And we want to approach our work into the way in the hours in which we have peak productivity. And so when we think about like productivity science, as I call it, green zones refer to the hours of the day in which we have the highest energy, focus, creativity, right? And so some of that is related to the types of work that we're asked to do, i.e. like I'm not a detail person. So like I'm not going to remember to go back to that detail thing, or I'm going to kick that to the end of the day after I'm fucking burned out and I've like fried my brain and I'm going to try to hyper focus on this detail thing and I'm not going to be very good at it. But green zones also think about the fact that like human beings, no matter who you are, we're going to throw away those of you that are using performance enhancing substances, only have about 3 to 5 deeply productive hours per day where they operate best. That's it. So you get 3 to 5 hours every day where you're at peak optimal cognitive performance. So you know that going in, if you've only can fit 3 to 5 hours of peak optimal cognitive performance into that workflow in the course of a day, why are you bogging it down with so much shit that isn't a task and isn't work that either A, requires you or B, comes naturally to you?
And it's right. and am I incorrect in stating that it's generally in 90-minute blocks?
100%. Yeah. The key is like the key to life in general, the key to, you know, being the most valuable, contributive, productive member of your company, your team, your life, right, is that protect your green zone for your most important work. Like creativity, problem solving, high concentration. Like the minute you begin to fill your green zone with trivial tasks and meetings, you're cheating your gift, right? Like you're neglecting your strongest skills by not giving them your best time. And then in contrast, when you align your toughest or most valuable tasks with the time of the day where you're most alert, you achieve way more with way less effort.
And then what people need to remember too is that everybody's time on that is different.
100%.
Yeah. Because everybody's like, oh, all these successful people get up at 5 a.m. Go fuck yourself. I don't get up at fucking 5 a.m. Like I know when I get up, I go to the gym. Everybody's like, when do you start your day? And I'm like, when do I start my day or when do I get to the office? They're like, when do you get to the office? I'm like 9:30.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I go to the gym, I blah, 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 blah. And like, that's my time. And I'm not productive until then. And I know, but it takes a while for you got to figure that out too. Right.
Yep. Yeah. So that's absolutely true. Not everybody is the same. And we do that a lot, right? We think like this works for me, so then this has to be that works for you. We do that in the same way that like green zone is not about raw output. It's about mental state, right? So like it's not about how much you can get done in that period of time. It's about the mental state that you find yourself in during that period of time. And green zone is low stress, high engagement, where intrinsic motivation, creativity, problem solving, and profitable productivity grow, right? Mm-hmm. So you enter flow state. Like I'm fully absorbed in my work. I find it rewarding. It's giving me more than just raw output, right? It's fueling me spiritually, and then I can adapt and innovate more readily. And actually, employees that are operating in green zone mindset, so like low stress, high creativity, they tend to be 31% more productive, and they generate 37% more sales when they get into those high stress, high conflict environments, right? And we're going to enter high conflict.
Do you want to cite your sources on that?
Do I want to cite my sources on that? I sure can. I'm going to add it right here. If you
love that. I love when people fucking throw out shit because they sound so confident. Everybody's like, well, he clearly knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. There you go,
anytime
man.
Anybody throws statistics out, I'm like, fucking cite it, bitch.
Yeah. So I can take mine from Dr. Elizabeth Lombardo, who's brilliant woman. But yeah, that's the research. And green zones are critically important for what we do and how we do it. Right.
So what's the tip then on how to get into that and how to find out where it is for you?
Yeah. So I look at it like there are 4 quadrants to this, right? There's on the top left, we'll call it the zone of competence. That's like my scope planning, my product specs. Like it brings me some joy, but I know how to do it, but I don't find fulfillment in it, right?
Yep.
The bottom left, there's zone of incompetence, which is like I don't know how to do it and I hate it, and I'm typically not the best at it. Bottom right, we've got zone of excellence, which is like I'm pretty good at doing it, but I don't love to do it. Where you want to find your flow state is the top right corner, which is zone of genius, right? It's like that vision between these two things. I'm competent at it and I'm joyful in doing it, and I can do it long term, right? So that's about identifying the work that I should fill that time with. In terms of identifying like when I should fill that time, I always recommend people to take like a journal, which has been like one of the most valuable things that I ever did in my life was journaling. Was stopping myself at the end of the day to self-reflect, to write down what happened, how it happened, when it happened. I've got a little touch of that tism, babe. So I could look back and find patterns in some of that and go like, oh shit, like every day between 9 and 3, I'm getting 5 times as much work done, right? So like what happens if I fill my 9 to 3 with the things that I love doing, that I'm best at doing, instead of just any of this other bullshit that's kind of clogging up my like that disjointed nature, right? And we've all recognized, Eric, I'm sure that you can relate to this. Those times where you're in flow state, you're highly productive, and then you get a grenade dropped in your lap in the middle of it, and you try to re-engage in that work that felt so natural and good for you, and you can't fucking do it.
You can't. So, no, it takes so much longer to get back into that once you get pulled out, right? Yeah. What was that? There's a book that like speaks specifically about that part. Have you I'm an idiot, I can't remember. I'll find it though and drop it in the comments when I do. It's a book that we read with the company and with CCM. I can't remember what the hell it was, but there was a statistic in it that stated like how much longer it takes to get back into that flow state once your concentration's broke, right? And so it's about, like you said, it's about protecting that time.
Yeah, protecting that time. And thinking about, by the way, this is not just true of like leaders, sales leaders, executive leaders, owners of companies. This is true for every single human being in the world. That means everyone else that works in your organization has got the same, right? We're all burdened by being human beings, unfortunately. So the key
is get that shit out of your hands and figure out what it is, right? So do a time audit so that you can figure out what it is that you can start passing off, correct?
It's exactly right. Yeah, when you think about when you operate in your zone of genius, time and space disappear because you're so engaged in what you're doing. And the tasks that you're doing actually recharge your energy, right? So they fuel you up. So you can go, like I see it with Chris DeRoll that I work with all the time. I love Chris. Chris is the greatest. And I actually realized that I added this to the private chat. And not.
I was wondering where the fuck you put
my side endorsement to the private chat with you. I'm just looking at this now. Connect to comment. Connect to my YouTube. Fuck is this? All right, Eric, if you can go to the private chat and add my link to the public.
You keep talking. I'll do it.
Chris. So I point to Chris DeRoll. Chris DeRoll is the best networker I've ever seen in my entire life. Like you drop that guy in a networking event, and he looks like a fat kid at Christmas or the holidays, whose parents are not watching the dessert table. Like he's just got a smile ear to ear. He's like running around talking to everybody. For me, that is fucking hell. That is my absolute abject hell. No interest. Don't want to do it. I want to like hide along the sides. I want to have one-on-one conversations with people.
That is my fucking nightmare.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, dude. Yeah. I hate it. But Chris fuels himself on this. And like, it's funny because you can watch him. The more time he spends doing it, the more energized he gets about doing it and the more deeply involved he gets in the process. And for me, that's like really special to watch. So I know Chris's zone of genius and the way that he contributes highest is in communicating with and through people, talking with people, learning about people, right? I also know that Chris works really well in the late afternoons and evenings. Like, so when he is a dream come true at a fucking networking event when everyone's like, let's go out to the bar. And I'm like, I'm going to bed. Right. Like,
right.
Yeah, have fun, guys. Like, yeah, I want to go get some sleep. Chris can't wait. Right. He's just amped and ready to do it. And so, yeah, that's an example that comes to mind, right? Like, when you watch him getting engaged and involved in the work, you watch the work fueling him and filling him. You watch him seek more of it out. Like, I can't get enough. I want as much as I can get, right? And we can see that, like, subtly. How many roofing company owners I talk to that are like, yeah, that guy's terrible about managing any of the files, and he doesn't do any of that shit. I just have him go out and get deals and then hand him off to the rest of our team to go close, right? Yeah, that guy's telling you, this is my zone of genius, right? And I'll do this all day. Right. And I'll take a lower commission percentage to not manage the files. I just want to go get land those deals. Right. All of us have seen that at one point or another in the guy that works for our business.
Yeah. It's about being self-aware and being able to identify it not only in ourselves, but in our people, so that we can figure out what it is that we need to take away and what it is that we need to put on their plate and when, so that they can perform at that high level. Right. Because I think that where we all get stuck a lot of times is trying to force, that we have to be able to do all of the things, right?
Yeah.
And that there's an industry standard that, like, for example, in a roofing company, a rep has to fucking, like, they sell the job, they estimate the job, they go to the adjuster meeting, they supplement the file, they have to manage the build, they have to do all these things, and that's what qualifies you for said commission, right? And just because that's how it had been done somewhere with somebody that was successful, everybody's like, well, that's what you do. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily what the fuck you do.
That's why I pay him. Right. Yeah. I hear that one all the time. Well, that's why I give him half my profit.
Like, don't give him half your fucking profit then.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Unless you want to go out of fucking business. Like, that's like stupid, because you're still going to have to pay for support staff, and somebody's picking up the pieces when he gets overwhelmed. Right. Like, that always happens. Right. Yeah. Because they're capped. It's like a restaurant. It's like a restaurant that has a finite number of tables in the restaurant. You can only serve so many people at one time, depending on how long they sit at the table and how big your place is, right? Yeah. So, like, how many tables you can fit in there. So, like, the only way that you can grow and scale is if you get more tables, right? To be able to serve more people. And the same thing comes with the people inside of your company. If you want them to be able to grow and scale, then you have to figure out how to support them so that they can focus on the things that you're talking about right now.
Yeah. And it's like the other thing, our brains trick us, right? So we've seen this same guy who, like, all of a sudden is terrible at managing jobs, terrible at, like, being on site, terrible following up adjusters, terrible following up homeowners. Like, usually they're out there at those times of stress when we really want them hammering down to manage files. They're out there getting more deals for some reason. Right. It's because they're kind of telling us what they want to do, and they're going to get that dopamine reward. Like, well, this sucks, and I don't want to do this thing that sucks that I'm bad at. So I'm just going to go get more deals and pretend it's not happening. So,
right. And the perfect example of that is, like, updating the CRM.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Nobody fucking makes good notes. Nobody updates the CRM because they're like, I just want to go out and close deals. And it's like, great. Then let's pay you to just go close deals, and we'll pay somebody else to do this work that has to still be done to be able to run the business properly. But understand that if you're not doing that, this is the pay scale for that. Yeah. Right. But you should be able to sell twice as many deals and make that much more money.
For, like, when you think about a roofing salesperson or an owner, right? A green zone activities, usually they go like meeting homeowners or clients, inspecting roofs, like crafting solutions, explaining options, closing deals, building relationships and trust, right? Like, sometimes if we've got managers, strategic planning, strategic training, they do this best. They're typically the parts of the job they enjoy the most. Like, whether or not it's solving a challenging leak issue or persuading a customer to follow through with an estimate. But we also enter, like, a whole other mountain of duties, right? Like, behind every great trade business is a pile of admin, quoting, invoicing, chasing payments, payroll, compliance, right? The work that doesn't make you money but still needs to get done. And, like, especially some of these smaller guys or small firms, they wear multiple hats. Like, their day gets split in between high value tasks and low value but necessary ones. Like, so
if I would have found this information and the opportunity to, like, be able to learn how to delegate earlier in my career, right, when I was operating everything myself, because, like I said, I was that guy that wore every single hat in the company, right? Like I ordered the jobs, I sold the jobs, I did the accounting, I did the invoicing, I did the supplementing, I did the estimate writing. I did everything. And if I would have learned, because I always, and back then you had to do this, but like you had to bring people in, right? You had to bring people in, but I was always afraid to bring people in because then it felt like it was another responsibility of managing said people, right? And it's like, well, when the fuck am I going to have time to do that? Right? Yeah. Which is why I think that this is so important, right? And like, and being able to have this opportunity to work with you. And like I said, I mean, this wasn't a thing 15 years ago, right? When I was in that state, right? But like, why are people trying to like, why would you fight it now? Right? The opportunity is there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the reality, the nature. This is a high velocity business, right? So like you are getting pulled all direction. Hey, I might have a morning appointment with a homeowner where I get a project sold, right? And then I might go into the office in the afternoon and I'm entering data into spreadsheets and I'm building out the estimate and I'm following up on unanswered emails and I'm scheduling next week's appointments and I'm calling my subs, right? Not only do these administrative tasks take up time, but they eat my energy, they kill my focus. And it's like really hard to shift from doing this one thing over here that requires a whole different set of behavioral traits to these other things over here that are like bullshit administrative work, right? The mental context switching alone reduces your efficiency tremendously. And the number of times that I talk to reps that like work in canvassing, work in storm markets that say like, yeah, when I spend all morning on the phone with the insurance company trying to get a desk adjuster, and then I have to go out and like canvass neighborhood or meet homeowners, like I don't even really give a shit to fight to overcome the objection because I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. Like I don't want to get the lead. Like I'm not going to fight for this because I don't want to have to deal with the mess that comes after I bring the homeowner involved in the system.
Dude, I've done that so many times in my past where I've just walked away from shit because I was like, it's too much.
Right.
It's too much because I didn't have a team.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Because I didn't have a team. Yeah. 100%. Where did you absorb all this information to become so fucking educated on it?
So yeah, my like the way I you know the story about how I tripped into roofing, right?
Probably, but everybody watching probably does.
Yeah, I owned a consulting practice with a handful of business partners, and we worked with venture capital funds. Okay. And we built super high performing software companies. So we would get involved, and the fund would make a Series A or Series B investment, and they would come to us and say, "Okay, we want our top line revenue to grow by 300 to 500% in 2 years or less. Make it happen." And so we would institute operating hygiene, revenue strategy, go-to-market strategy, talent strategy to hit these super accelerated growth outcomes. One of the big functional things that we did, which is actually it like people get pulled out of their areas of genius or zones of genius in their flow states much less outside of home services. It happens like 10 times more in this space, which is actually what brought me into it. Was we would institute a playbook to ensure that folks were only focused in operating in that flow state and that zone of genius and the things that they did best, and that roles were really clearly differentiated and designed to ensure that they were providing back high value activity to the business, right? And the business wasn't carrying unnecessary risk. You know, what we found was that like you could get the work of 150 people done with 90 if you put the right people in the right seats and you design the jobs appropriately. Mm-hmm. And those people will traditionally work 30 to 50% more for you, right? So it becomes sustainable long term. I found my way into home services and roofing because I was presenting at a conference 5 years ago at a time in my life where I was miserable, working like 130-hour weeks. I was really wealthy, but I fucking hated it. I hated it a lot. And a guy approached me in a room that was very expensive to get into after I gave an hour-long talk on this. And he said, "Hey, what y'all do for software companies is really cool, but you should know it'd work way better for roofers." And I did not sleep for like a week. I was like, well, first, like, who are you? How the fuck did you get in here? Like, I don't know anything about that industry. That's crazy. It's actually how I met Joe, to be honest, Joe Hoffman.
Who is the person?
I don't know. I still don't know.
Oh,
still have no idea. But yeah, it just, that seed was planted in my head. And then I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks. And so I did research on what the macroeconomics of this space look like, and they're unbelievable. And then I wanted to do primary market research. And so I met big roofers, little roofers, small roofers, innovative roofers, old school roofers. One of the guys I met was Joe Hoffman, who had SMA sitting alongside his company. So
that he already had.
Yeah. And I said, it's interesting to me because you're doing way more top line revenue than most of the other businesses that I'm meeting with that are teaching me about the space, and you're doing it with like half the number of staff. So how are you doing that, right? And he said, "Oh, it's because I've got 20 people in the Philippines doing the work of 60 for the cost of 5." so I said, that's compelling. Yeah.
So, okay, I love all this. What is something actionable that everybody could take away from this of what they should do first to start identifying the things that we talked about so that they can come in and have a more high level conversation with a you or a Chris?
Yeah. So I think like the first thing, right? Like roofing businesses have lots and lots and lots of common tasks that are important or time consuming and do not directly generate revenue. And those tasks are pulling salespeople away from like green zone activities. So I think the first step you should always go through and not being what I call not telling your team, but learning from your team on what that might look like, right? Because you probably have your own ideas on what you think are chewing up salespeople's time or what they're not very good at. I go directly to the source and figure it out. What it usually looks like, I can tell you, like administrative paperwork and data entry, like scheduling and calendar management, lead qualification, and follow-up. Follow-up's a huge one. Chris Durrell and I were having a conversation earlier about it. He met Dave Sullivan of the Roofing Show years ago, and he said, "I need more leads to close, and I need more top of funnel." And Dave said, "You're 6 million. So like, why do you need more leads? What are you doing with all the people you didn't close?" And Chris said, "Oh, I'm not following up with them." So, right, which is, this is, and when I get back, like the macroeconomics of the space are unreal. They are unreal. Which means that usually we can you get two types of leads. Lead bucket A, I need a new roof. I need it right now. I know I need it and I'm ready to pay for it. And lead bucket B, which is like, I might need a new roof in the next 1 to 6 years. I'm not totally sure yet. I'm trying to understand what it could cost and what the process looks like to get there. Probably for every one of my bucket A guys, I've got 2 of my bucket B guys, right? Mm-hmm. And most roofers are not touching bucket B at all. Like they're just like, well, I'll go sell more roofs. That's how I solve this problem, which is not really.
Why do you think that is?
Because there are so many fucking roofs to sell. There is so much that's out there.
See, I think it's something different. I think it's different. I think that there's a fear behind it in this industry because they know that there's other opportunity, whatever. Sure. There's a fear involved of looking too pushy or looking to, you know what I mean? Like follow up. It's not a dirty word, but like sales guys get, there you go. They hate rejection or afraid. Yeah. Thank you, John. I think that there's more of a mental thing to it than just, hey, there's more business out there to go find, right? Because we all know that closing that warm lead, and it might take you 6 months or whatever to do, is still easier than finding new business, right? Like just inherently, it is easier to do that. It just takes the effort and the time to massage it. Right.
Since John here, like if I were going to start a roofing company today, the first thing that I would do would be get ProLine. And then I would have marketing automations built in so that every deal that I met that I didn't sign right away, I'd throw into a, 12 to 18 month campaign and hit with a CTA, 15 months from now that says save 10%. Let's move forward. After I've educated them, I've taught them, I've worked with them, I've filtered information. I've kept my brand ever present at the front of the mind so that like, should that thing they thought that maybe I need to deal with in 3 years starts leaking tomorrow, they know exactly who they're going to call. Some of it is like, we've got tool systems in place. And like ProLine is a great example of this. Having a marketing automation plan and a marketing automation plan for every deal you do not close out of the gate, like take it out of your rep's hands so he can go find those people that are in bucket A, that there's plenty of them. So.
Right. Yep. No, I think that's huge. I think that changing that mindset is a big hurdle to overcome. Right. And if you can automate that, like that's fucking huge, right? Whether it's with ProLine and automations inside the system, or it's with a team, that's constantly calling on the phones, texting, whatever it is that they're doing. It's figuring out what that process is for you so that you can work in bucket B, right? While you still got guys going out and filling bucket A.
It's exactly right. Like, and when we think about, it's exactly when you think about it, right? So it's like having your guy get out of the field to call a homeowner who didn't sign a proposal 2 weeks ago to check in on where they're at, what they need, how things are going. Like it ain't happening, right? They might call once at the end of the week, and then it's like, forget about it. Like, but there are not a ton of families in America that are willing to make a $50,000 investment or a $25,000 investment in a week or less. Like, it's not like they want time to chew on that, right? So
and to us, it's just this easy decision. Like, make it. Like, let's fucking go. I read all these books about one-step closes and blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm so fucking tired of everybody like, we teach a one-step close. Congratulations. Like, what do you do when that doesn't work?
Right. Yeah. Because that's great when it does, but most of the time it kind of doesn't. Right.
Most of the time it doesn't. Yeah. So,
anything like we got like having, we look at like, it's a great example. Brian Huff at Modern Roofing had shared this, like our VA, Ruben, gets cited in the 5-star reviews that the company is getting left from homeowners who are like relying on that VA to answer questions or to follow up with them or to coach that process along, which is like, having consistent, strong communication, and, being receptive to the needs of the homeowners and the communities that you serve. It goes a really long way in setting you apart from every other asshole that doesn't call a guy back for 3 days.
Right. Yeah. 100%. Like, yeah. And a lot of markets, like the one thing that will differentiate you is literally the fact that you follow up and show up. Right there. It blows my mind when I go in and talk to other people and other owners and other companies. And they're like, yeah, whether it's like, we just email a bid or we just do this. And it's like, then what, like, do you show up to it? Like, they're like, yeah, as long as we show up to appointments, we can, and there's all these companies that aren't even showing up, which is just insane to me. Anyway, I always said I always want to like be super intentional about keeping these to a time, but I want to, what is, give a CTA at the end of this of what you want everybody to do of as far as what we talked about today as like a 1-2 step. And then so that they can identify the things so that they can reach out.
So I've got an exercise and I've got a PDF. So I don't know how to put it. Actually, no, that's not true. I have it in a link now. I've got a link that I'm going to add to the chat that you're going to have to share, Chris, or Eric. Sorry.
No, just go to the top button that says comments and get out of private chat.
No, but I have to like sign into YouTube or something. It's like hit join the chat and then it says,
oh, really?
YouTube. Hold on. I'll just do it. It's like a couple of clicks. I'm fucking old, man. I'm just
old. And what the fuck am I? You're old. I'm fucked.
There we go. Come on, work.
If it doesn't work, I'll post it. Just put it in the thing.
Well, we'll add it. We will add it to the post. But I've got a link on our website that gives an exercise that's about column A, column B, column C. Right?
Okay.
Column A being the value add work, the things that only you can do that make the biggest impact of moving the needle for your organization. Column B, the shit work, right? And column C, the things I wish that I could do, but I can't because I don't have time. And the goal, right, is how do I maximize my time in column A and my flow state? How do I limit column B? How do I move C to A? So it's a really healthy, productive way to think about the way that, you're engaging in your work. I encourage you to do it. I encourage your reps to do it too. If you got 35% more out of every one of your reps this year, what would that mean for your top line? Right. You'd be pretty happy. Yeah.
Okay. We'll drop that link in the comments. So everybody go click on that link, fill out the form, and then reach the fuck out.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yes, sir.
Cool. You want anything else you want to close with?
No, I'm going to add it. Actually, here's what I'm going to do, Eric. I'm going to add it to the private chat, and then you're going to add it to the public one. That's, again, I appreciate it.
I got it.
Look at that.
I got it. Paste. Boom, bitch.
Oh, and I apologize to everybody that I didn't find new, creative, and innovative ways to say the F word today. I did my best, but
it won't let me. I wonder, I'll have to go back and look. It's showing that it's only posting as the YouTube channel, which is fucking weird.
But, well, we can add it. We'll add it to the.
Yeah, we'll add it to the Facebook group. So anyway, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Adam, thank you for being here. Like I said, we do these every couple of weeks. We just want to make sure that we're educating, right? I mean, as roofing company owners and salespeople, like, what's our job? Our job is to educate. Our job is to teach clients, the proper way to do things and how you do things. And, what we're trying to do here is to educate you on how you can be better, how you can run your shit more efficiently, and get more output, with less from you, so that you can get other people to do the stuff that you don't need to be doing. So we just want to keep educating and helping people. And so we'll keep doing these until people stop watching. Fair?
I'm going to do them even if no one's watching.
Eric. I mean, we can just do them by ourselves. Like, that's fine. Yeah, we'll just fucking hang out on a Zoom and just talk to each other like a couple assholes. Exactly. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. reach out to me or Adam or anybody that works for SMA, but reach out to me or Adam if you have any questions, and we'll connect you with the right people. Okay. Adam, thanks again for being here, brother. Appreciate you.
Cheers. Thank you.
All right. See you guys.